Good afternoon, everybody. Matt Johnson over here at SFREP in Charlotte. And today we're doing another webinar. This time we're going to be doing it on Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks. Now, this webinar is kind of a companion to our Introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar. So it's kind of like a part 2 to that webinar. So if you haven't seen the original Appraise-It Pro introduction webinar, you may want to go and watch that first. Now, don't worry. This webinar will always be here for you. It's archived on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/SFREP, and just click on live and you will be able to view this, or you can use the link that was emailed to you as well. But you'll want to have that foundation of the introduction webinar first before you necessarily view this one. So we're going to kind of pick up where that left off, show you a couple of more in-depth things with Appraise-It Pro. All right. So we're just going to go ahead and jump in. Don't really have to explain how these webinars work because you obviously have already seen one of them at least. So just remember that you can use the chat to ask any questions that you have. I will answer any of those questions as we go along and towards the end of the webinar as well. This webinar doesn't take as long as the introduction webinar does. And if you are watching this webinar after the fact, then you can always email me directly and ask any questions. training@sfrep.com is the email address that you'll need to use. And of course, if you need immediate assistance, if you're stuck, something like that, you're going to want to contact our tech support department directly. They are at tech@sfrep.com, or you can give them a call toll free 800-644-4051. Real simple stuff. All right. So let's get into it. Tips and tricks in Appraise-It Pro. And remember, we really want you to kind of move into Appraise-It Pro at your own pace, but we're not going to be getting rid of Appraise-It Classic right away, but it will eventually go away as the new UAD 2.0 comes online and we have to start using that. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at Appraise-It Pro. Right now I'm at the welcome screen, or the welcome to Appraise-It Pro screen, which is part of the backstage. And I do apologize. I'm getting over a really bad cold and I'm still having a little bit of congestion, and I lost my voice completely like a week and a half ago, but that's just how it is. So the first thing I want to go ahead and show you, I'm going to go ahead and open up a blank 1004 report here. The first thing I want to show you is automatically shrinking text. Sometimes I go over this, sometimes I don't. The easiest way to show you this is to go to the city field, and we're going to type in Charlotte. I can fit one Charlotte in there. Heck, I can even probably fit 2 in there. There we go. There's 2. Can't fit 3 though, obviously, but Appraise-It Pro does have a little trick up its sleeve. As I type in the third one, it's going to very subtly shrink the text down. So if we had an address in here, you can see that the text is, while you can, if you know to look for it, the text is smaller. It's kind of imperceptibly smaller. So, you really can't tell in the printed version that there's extra text in here. Now, obviously I cannot fit a third Charlotte in there. It's just going to run off the page, but I can fit 3 in there. Now, this isn't as helpful in a field like the city, but if you come down here to one of these fields, which is an entire paragraph, well, if you think about it, if you shrink down the text and you have a lot of text to be able to shrink down, you can fit up to another sentence. And that's just going to keep you from having to go into the extended comments. It's kind of annoying for you guys to have to use extended comments just for a sentence or something like that. It's very annoying for the reader to have to do that. So this can prevent you from having to trip over to extended comments quite as early. You can take a little bit of time. You'll be able to fit at least another sentence. In some cases, depending on the field, a couple of words in there, and prevent the reader from having to switch over. Next is going to be importing data from another report. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. You can either do it in the home menu here, and you can come over here to import forms. The problem with this interface, and this is here kind of for those of you coming over from Classic, because this is kind of the way you did it in Appraise-It Classic, you're going to be required to browse to find your actual file. And, most of your files are probably some cryptic name, and so they're hard to find. So you can actually also do it from the search. So if you come over here, back to the Backstage by clicking the File menu here, come down here to Search, and I'm just going to do a blank search here because I've got a bunch of, test reports and stuff like that in here. And if I select Sample UA5, now I can come over here to either import forms or import comps. You can't import the comps. It will bring the photos over as well. Probably easier to do that from the Comp Manager app, but if you don't use the Comp Manager app, you can do it here. But we can also import forms. So I can come in here. It's going to ask, so since this was a Appraise-It Classic form that I'm importing in, it is going to ask me if there's a print scheme. I'm just going to say, no, we're not going to be doing that. And then what I can do is, and I think because I don't have a print scheme, that's probably a bad one to choose. Let's do something like this. We'll do import forms. These are basically blank reports, but this one is a little bit easier for you to see because we didn't have to select a print scheme. And I can check and uncheck sections or addenda from that report, and then, or I can take the whole thing and bring it in. Now, remember, if you don't, in Appraise-It Pro, you don't have to go and find an old report and import it like you did in Appraise-It Classic to bring that data in to start a new report. You can just go to the old report, open it up, clear out what you don't need, and start typing. You can also save it as a template as well. But if you do need like a sketch from another report, or if you need an addenda from another report, this is a great way to do that. You just come in here, find the report by doing a search that you're looking for, and just import the forms. Now, there are a couple of different ways. I'm kind of jumping up all over the place here just to make it interesting for you. But if you do have any questions, let me know. We're going to jump over to doing photos. Now, there are two main ways you can deal with photos, and that is here in the Tools menu. You can use Comp Manager or Image Manager. Both of these are identical to Appraise-It Classic, so I generally don't go over them all that much. We do have separate videos on those, and if you need a link to those videos, first of all, you can just go to our YouTube page and do a search for Image Manager, Comp Manager, or do a search on YouTube. Just type in SFREP Image Manager or SFREP Comp Manager, and it'll take you to that video. But there's a third way that you can easily put photos into your report that doesn't use these two methods. And that's by just simply dragging and dropping. Now, in Appraise-It Classic, you were able to come to a photo page, and then you could double click and you could browse in a photo. And you can do that here as well. But you can also just simply drag and drop the photos. Now, I have 3 photos here. I don't have any photos of homes on this computer right now. I couldn't find any. And I'm an amateur photographer. I do aviation photography, so I have like some aviation photos here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use these 3 photos right here on the right hand side of the screen, and I'm just going to simply, whoops, I don't want to do all 3. I'm going to drag them in one by one. We'll pretend like these are house photos. And now I can just drag them into the report. Now I'm doing it from the desktop, but of course you could do it from your photo app if it supports drag and drop, which most of them do, or you could do it from a folder on your computer that you store all your photos in. Just simply click and drag them over. Now, of course, you're going to have to label them manually because the Image Manager and the Comp Manager will label them for you. But in this case, we're just clicking and dragging them in just to get the photos in there, and then we'll need to label them ourselves. And you can do that anywhere on any photo page. Now, creating a template. I sometimes go over this, but not in depth in the Introduction to Appraise-It Pro webinar. If you need to import, or excuse me, if you need to, make a new starting point for a report, in Appraise-It Classic, that was called a skeleton. In Appraise-It Pro, it's called a template. And the way that you do that in Appraise-It Pro is so much easier than it was in Appraise-It Classic. Really, all a template is it is a regular report file that's been promoted by you to template status. So because of that, you can basically just open up a blank report, fill it out, pre-fill it out in any way you wish, put in your signature, put in your seal, insurance, whatever it is. You can add all of that stuff to the report. And then simply come up here to home, go to save as, and instead of save as report, you're going to select save as template. So we're just going to, I don't know, I'm just going to do, and then county would be, there we go. Whoop. There we go. I'm just going to fill out a little bit of information here. Now I'm going to create the template. So we're going to go to save as template, and I'm going to call this one Matthews. Now I'm creating this template based upon a geographical location. You can do it for lenders, for different situations, whatever you want, you can create a template for it. And then the way I'm going to access that template, let's close this. No, I don't want to save. We're going to come over here to File. If I go to New and I select the UAD 1004, you'll see now Matthews is one of those templates. There's going to be a different set of templates for every single report type. So you see here, in these, I've not created one for the hybrid 1004, so it just says default template, but if I were to create any, they would show up here. So if I come up here to under frequently used, I'm going to select the Fannie Mae 1004. You'll see I've already created some templates for it. Here's the one we just did. I'm going to double click on it to open it up so I can start my report. And here's all the information that I had previously filled in there. So, you know, you can structure the report over here in the way that you really like to start your reports. Or in the way or fashion that you would need for this particular type of report that you're going to be doing. Pre-fill out anything you want and just simply save it as a template and it'll be available to you. So for this next one, we are going to close out of this. No, we're going to come down here to open, and I'm going to open up, we're going to go to recent reports. I'm going to open up this pro sample. Now I have password protected this, and I'll show you how to do that here in a little while. But just going to need to do this to open it up. Okay. Clearing comps, moving comps, etc. Now you can do this from within the comp manager, of course, but if you want to stay in the report editor in Appraise-It Pro proper, you can also do that from here. So let's say that I want to get rid of comp number 3. All I have to do is right click anywhere in either the comp information or the adjustments for that comp. Right click in here, and I'm just going to simply say clear comp. I'm going to say yes, and now the comp is gone. So now maybe I want to move comp 1 over to comp 3. So if I want to do that, I'm going to right click anywhere in comparable number 1, and I'm going to cut the comp, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste the comp over here. Of course, I can also copy the comp as well. So here's that comp in comparable number 3, and I want to duplicate it over here on comparable number 1. So I'm going to right click, select copy comp, right click over here. We're going to do paste comp, and there you go. Easy as that. And of course, once again, you can do that in the comp manager, but there's some really simple right clicking that you can do to move those comps around. And by the way, when you do that, it also moves around the images on the comparable photos page as well. Something that some people use, it's not something I generally use, but it's in here to make people moving over from classic feel a little bit more comfortable. Some people do use it. And that's the same as subject button. So let's say we're here in this site. Maybe this is a cookie cutter and comp number 2 is almost identical to comp number 1. So the site size is identical. It was just, square lots. Maybe it's out west. It's really flat. So the square footage of the site is going to be identical. So what I can do is when I get to that section and I just want to copy this over, of course I can come over here, do a Control C and then a Control V if I want to. I can also come over here, right click, copy, and then paste. But what I want to do here is simply, instead of filling this out, I'm just going to do same as subject, and then it's going to automatically move over. So you can use that same as subject button. Of course, in my opinion, the easier way to do this is actually a quick and easy macro that you can use. So what I can do is I can do equal S, tab out, and that will copy whatever is for the subject over here. So you don't actually even have to pick up your mouse and do anything. And it gets better because you can do equal 3, and it's going to copy whatever is in the 3 field, the comp number 3's field, into here as well. And if I don't have any of these filled out, and they're all the same, remember maybe we're dealing with a grid out west, all the lots are the same size, I can just simply do equal, tab out, and it's going to copy everything. It's going to copy whatever in the subject field for everything. At least on this page, not for all comps, but whatever's on this page, it'll copy for you. Let's go over to searches real quick. Once a minute, I told you I was going to be bouncing around, okay? So if you have any questions, go ahead and use that chat and let me know. But, you know, we're kind of moving around to keep it fresh for you. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to come over here to search. This search is completely and totally customizable. And I don't really go over this in the introduction to Appraise-It Pro, but this is one of my favorite features of Appraise-It Pro is the customization you can do everywhere, but especially here in the search. So these are all the search criteria. Now, the search uses what's called exclusionary search, meaning the more information that you put in here, the more targeted and narrowed down your search results are going to be. So if you gave it a partial street address, then it may show, you know, if I did 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to show me all of the reports that I have that have a subject street address starting with 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I start going pear, it's going to show me Pearson, pear, pear shape, whatever streets there are. It's going to narrow it down a little bit. But let's say I do 1, 2, 3, 4, because I remember it had a 1, 2, 3, 4 in it, because that's a kind of unique number. And then I also remember that it was in Mecklenburg County. I remember that it was in Charlotte. And by the way, it is going to auto fill in here. So if it's going to search through all the reports, and so Charlotte is a common city there, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to auto fill that for me, and I can just tab. And so we know it was in Charlotte. And thinking about it, I really remember that it was in the zip code I grew up in. So we'll do 28226. There it is. Now, if I hit search, it's going to really narrow down those results. And in this case, it's going to narrow it down too much because I don't actually have a report that matches that. But what if you never use, let's say, state? Maybe you're only licensed in the state of North Carolina, so you never go outside of that state. So this is kind of redundant. You're never going to be searching on it. So you want to simplify things. What you can do is use this little trash can icon here, and you can delete state. Now, let's say, hey, I just became licensed in South Carolina, so that, you know, Charlotte's right on the border, so you can do both. So now I want to add state back, so all I got to do is come over here to add field, pull it down. We'll select state. They're in alphabetical order. But now state's down here orphaned by itself on the end. So I'm going to use these up and down arrows to bring it up to be after city. And there we go. City, state, zip. So now it's where it needs to be. But let's say temporarily, we want to search by something different. So in this case, I'm not going to be searching by order number. So I'm going to use the pull down here, and maybe I need to search by neighborhood name. So I can select that, and I can temporarily or permanently change this, this search box to be neighborhood name. So you can either delete something, or you can change it, or you can add to it. So one of the things you may want to come in here and do is, if you never search by case number, you can get rid of it. You can kind of pare this down if you want, or you can add additional ones. And of course, when I do a search, let me clear it. When I do a search, if I select it over here on the right-hand side, it's going to give me the front view photo and some key information about that particular address. One thing I do want to show you down here is this right here, open work file. This is a really cool feature of Appraise-It Pro. It wasn't in Appraise-It Classic. And what the work file is it's nothing more than, it really should be called work folder instead of work file. But a lot of people still use terminology that dates back to the DOS days. But work folder, work directory, that's what this actually is. Because what happens here is when you press this button, Appraise-It Pro is going to create a folder in its structure that is unique to this particular report. Okay, so right now I'm looking at this particular report right here. And if I click on work file, it is going to open up this work file right here. And you'll see the folder structure here. It's under documents, my Appraise-It data work file. But that's not important because all you got to do is come in here and search and then click on the open work file button. What is this? Well, I've already created this photos folder, but you could put whatever you want in here. And all this is a Windows folder that is permanently associated with this particular report. That is a place where you can stick stuff that you want associated with the report, but you don't necessarily want in the report. Maybe there's some PDFs that support your valuation of this particular property. Maybe there's some extra photos that you didn't end up using, but you want to go ahead and file them away. Maybe it is some other type of documentation. Maybe it's a, a reading from your laser measurement tool that you wanted to put in here that, you can't really put in the report, but maybe you want to have it just in case somebody comes back to you and questions your valuation, or maybe you have to go to court or something like that. You can put all that information in here. And if you have a backup setup that's going to back up all of the Appraise-It Pro files, all of this stuff will also get backed up with it. So that's all this is. It's just simply a Windows folder that you can drag and drop and dump stuff in here that you want to keep associated with the report. It's one really cool feature that I really love of Appraise-It Pro. Next, let's go over here to, we're going to once again change gears. We're going to come over here to these panels. Now, in the intro to Appraise-It Pro webinar, I do go over that you have these 4 primary panels. There's actually a 5th one here, the help, but we don't really need to go over that. But there's these 4 primary panels. The cool thing that I don't go over in there is that these are fully customizable too. So what you can do is you can mouse over into the little divider in between them and you can change their size. You can also change their size laterally. Of course, if you do that, you're going to make your editing area smaller. But if you have one of those really widescreen monitors, you can make these bigger. You can make the editing area bigger or smaller, whatever you want to do. And if you have a 4K monitor, you'd be able to do that as well, because you'd be able to definitely... I know a couple of our customers that have like 65-inch 4K televisions mounted on the wall right in front of their desk, and that's what they use as a monitor, so they can have really high resolution to have a lot of real estate to be able to work around in, but also it's big enough so that they'll be able to see it. Because when we get older, our eyes go bad. You know how it is. So you can change their sizes. You can also change where they are. So I can actually click on the header, the title here, and I can pull it out. I can put it on a different monitor if I wanted to. Or maybe I want to move responses over to the lower left-hand or the upper left-hand corner. So I can pull out responses as well. And I can just put it over here. Now, when I mouse it over, this little wheel will come up. And if you're still holding down your left mouse button, and I can move over these, and it'll kind of give me a preview of what it's going to do. So I know if I select this, it's going to basically put responses back where report was. So I let go, and there we go. And now maybe I want to put report up on top of format. So that's what we want. And there we go. Now, invariably, as you play around with this stuff, this is going to happen. Or you're going to be like, oh, well, wait, I need to fix that. And then this happens. And you're just like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Don't worry. Don't panic. Don't call tech support. All you got to do, come up here to view, select reset to default, say yes. And it's going to put everything back to factory settings. Now, remember I told you some people use those big 4K monitors they have bolted to the wall. One of the cool things if you're doing something like that you can use is this 1 and 2 page button. So I can click on 2 pages, and now I see 2 pages on the screen at the same time. Now that's a little bit too small to read when you're in a 1080p monitor like I am right now. And of course it's definitely going to be small for you guys because you're just seeing a stream of my 1080p monitor. So if you're on a 1080p monitor, which is what Appraise-It Pro is built for, this is going to be too small. But if you were on a 4K monitor and that was like a 50 inch or a 55 or a 65 inch, this would be very readable for you. So you could see more of the report at the same time. As a matter of fact, instead of using this, you can also either use zoom up here or down in the lower excuse me, down in the lower right corner, you can also use this zoom function. So I'm going to zoom out here. As I zoom out, there's 2 per page. Now it's 3 per page. And now I can see like the entire report. Even on a 4K monitor that's 65 inches, this is going to be too small, but at least you can see the entire report at one time if you want to. And then if you want to put this back the way it was, you just come down here, click on the percentage, check fit to width, hit OK. Now it's back to the 2-page view, which is what I had it on before. And now I'm going to switch it back to the 1-page view. And if you are on a convertible or a tablet. So a convertible is a laptop that, a convertible laptop is a laptop that you can, they also call them 2-in-1s, where you can actually take the laptop and fold it back on itself and it becomes a tablet. So if you're on one of those, what you can actually do is you can click on portrait. And because a tablet is going to naturally be in that, you're going to want to hold it kind of in that portrait orientation. What it'll do is it'll take all of these panels and it will put it down at the bottom. It's going to look weird here on a widescreen monitor, but it puts them all at the bottom because you're going to have way more height right here. So you can actually see the full report, and then you still have access to your panels down here at the bottom. And then when you switch back into regular landscape mode, you click on that and it'll put it back the way it was. Now, as you are opening up different addenda, you will notice up here that it opens them up in a tabbed interface. This is very similar to a web browser. And just like a web browser, you can do things like move these around, so I can click and drag them if I want to move them around or reorder them. I can also click and pull them out and then put them on a different monitor if I want, move them around, do whatever I want to do with them. And then, as you just saw right there, I can click on the tab and pop it right back in just like you would with a regular web browser. It's very, very similar. And then when you don't want to view anything anymore, you can just click on the X to get rid of it. It's not removing it from the report. It's just removing it from the tab bar so that you're not looking at it any longer. A couple of small little things that are in here. Let's say that down here, for whatever reason, I wanted to do something like this. This is today's date. And I want to put in the date. I could just type it if I want, but I could also insert today's date or any date. So I'm just going to do today's date. So I'm going to select today. And it's just going to put the numeric date in there in proper UAD formatting. This is the proper US format for dates. And it puts it in there. And this is the proper UAD format as well, which is going to have a leading 0 for the month or the day if it's a single digit. So, you know, it could save you a little bit of time, especially if you get used to it. Census tract kind of has the same thing. So if you see the census tract here, if instead of having to go and look at here, let me get rid of this because I hate it when I see those reds. If you want to put the census tract in there, instead of having to go and look it up, you can just come over here to services. Because remember, local tools are under the tools menu. These are ones that don't require the internet. Services are tools that require the internet. So under the services tab, I can click on get census tract here. Here's the address. I'm going to click on get census tract. It's going to go out to the internet and it's going to hit the server for the US government to grab the census tract information, and it's going to put it back in here. Sometimes I show this and sometimes I don't. Under the city or under any field that has a response on it, there's a couple of different ways that you can actually put in responses. So this is Monroe, and I'm going to go manage responses. I'm going to add that one because I don't think I have that one in here. So we'll hit save. No, Monroe already exists. Okay. No, I don't want to save changes. There we go. So if I want to put Monroe in there, I can either do MO and it's going to know I'm talking about Monroe, so I can just tab out of there. I can also come over here, double click Monroe. Monroe has been assigned an F key, so we show you how to do this in the other webinar. Hit F7, there it goes in. One that I don't always show is the F2 key. If you want to stay on the keyboard, you can either start typing and it'll autofill for you, or you can just hit F2 and it will make a pull down menu. Come down here, select Monroe, and you haven't had to pick up your mouse. You just stay on the keyboard and you can just select it from a list. Let's see, I went over that. There's a couple of ones I'm going to skip here because I've already gone over them. When you are doing a validation, it's going to be key to remember to always check this rule set. Now remember, there's two types of validation going on. There's real-time validation and there's comprehensive validation. The comprehensive validation you're going to want to invoke at the end. When you're done with the report, you're going to click on validate here and it's going to run the full comprehensive validation. But you need to make sure that you're in the correct rule set. There are two. There's UCDP, which is the regular UAD rule set. And then there's FHA, Federal Housing Authority rule set. So if you're doing an FHA report, you're going to want to select FHA. Now, keep in mind that it is going to remember this selection from one time to another. So we're going to use the little pull down menu here and always double check this and make sure that you're using the correct rule set. Now the two rule sets are very, very similar to each other, only a couple of small differences, but those differences mean something. So you're going to want to make sure you're in the proper rule set there. Now, one thing I do want to go over here, and this is really important, and it's the way that Appraise-It Pro deals with security. And this has tripped up some people. We've had some people call in questioning this. So I want to go over real quick how report security works in Appraise-It Pro. In Appraise-It Classic, your report was secured whenever you signed the report. The problem with that was that was not really that secure. There were ways around that. They not ways that most people would know, but there are ways that if you knew what you were doing, that you could circumvent that. So what we wanted to do in Appraise-It Pro is we wanted to put true encrypted report security in there. Now, in order to do that, we did break the link between the signature and report security. So keep in mind that just because you've signed a report in Appraise-It Pro does not mean that that report is secured. It can still be edited. You can sign it at the beginning and then fill out your whole report. The signature is nothing more than putting the image of your signature onto the report. Instead, you need to come up here, which is right next to sign report, secure report. And you remember when I first opened this report earlier in the webinar, it prompted me for a password twice. And so now we're going to kind of have that pay off. So I'm going to click on report security, and there are two types of report security that you can add to the report. Okay. You can require a password to edit the report. You can also require a password to open the report, or you can do both. In this case, I had both set. So I'm going to uncheck these, hit OK, and then I'm going to save the report. And now the report is now unsecured and kind of stored in an unsecure fashion. But if I do want to secure the report, I can come back up here, secure report. And I want to just I want people to be able to look at the report. Maybe my colleagues can look at the report, but I don't want them to be able to edit it. So I'm going to check that checkbox, and now I need to give it a password. Please don't just make your password like I'm doing right here. But make it something that you're going to remember. You may want to even change it from one report to another. But just make sure that you don't lock the report, because if you lock the report, that's it. It's encrypted. It's military grade 256-bit encryption. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a password. Hit OK. And now people will be able to open this report and view it, but they won't be able to edit it. So we'll save it. I'm going to close the report. No, I don't want to do that. We're going to come back over here to open. There's the pro sample. And now it is showing me. So first of all, it's showing me the report in read-only mode, which all the color goes away. And that's how you know you're in read-only mode, is it's just all black and white. And it's going to prompt me. It's going to say the report is protected to prevent unauthorized editing. If you do not enter the password, you'll be able to view it, but not edit the report. Read-only mode. Do you want to enter the password to unlock the report? And I'm going to say no, because I don't have the password. But if I said yes, I could go ahead and I could enter that password and then be able to edit the report. So you can even send the report to somebody in this way, and they'll be able to open it up in Appraise-It Pro, but they will not be able to edit it. And if you send it like this, the report is actually encrypted, 256-bit encryption, so that if anybody intercepts it along the way, they will not be able to. It'll be encrypted. It'll be gobbledygook. They won't be able to know what it is. So they'll have to have the password. Now, if you do this, make sure that you don't send the password in the same email as you send the report. Text the person the password, call and tell them the password. Use a different method to convey that information. At the very least, send it in a separate email. But really, you should text it or call them and tell them. Because you don't want to give the key. You don't want to send your car to somebody along with the keys so that anywhere along the way it can just be stolen because the thief has the keys. You know what I mean? We're kind of running a little bit low on time. One other thing I kind of want to show you, and then I think we're going to be, looking down through here. I think we're going to be done. This is like the last thing that I want to show you. And actually, I want to come over here. I want to unlock the report finally. There we go. So after the fact, if you want to unlock the report, you just come over here to home, go to unlock report. So the final thing I kind of want to show you is going to be Appraise-It Classic Export and Appraise-It Classic Compatibility. And this is also going to tie into ACI Sky Export. And I'll get to that in a minute. But what these two are for is obviously you can go from Appraise-It Classic. You can have a Appraise-It Classic report, bring it into Pro just fine, no problems at all. That's called backwards compatibility. Then there's something called forward compatibility, which is kind of the opposite of that. And that means that obviously Appraise-It Classic is not forward compatible with Appraise-It Pro. You can't take an Appraise-It Pro report and expect to open it up in Appraise-It Classic. But Appraise-It Pro does have the ability to export back to Appraise-It Classic. But there's a lot of stuff in Appraise-It Pro that's not supported in Classic. So if you're learning if you're learning Appraise-It Pro, you're still using Classic, but you want to start using Pro, you may want to come in here at first and engage this. It's called Appraise-It Classic compatibility, this one right here. When you click on this, what will happen is it will basically disable all of the fancy features in Appraise-It Pro that are not compatible with Appraise-It Classic. So you're not going to be able to use some of the cool features, but at least you're learning Pro. The cool thing about this is if you get stuck in your report and you don't know how to do something and it's a holiday or whatever, middle of the night, and you need to go back to Appraise-It Classic, all you have to do is come over here to the home menu, click on Appraise-It Classic Export. It'll let you know that if there's anything in this report that is not going to be compatible with Classic, because remember, I engaged compatibility mode after I had already written this not in compatibility mode. So it is letting me know that there is a U80 sales comps adjustment because we have a different one in Appraise-It Pro. And so what it's going to do is it's going to export it to Appraise-It Classic as an exhibit page. So basically an image of that page. Okay. And then you basically hit next, and then you can export it back to Appraise-It Classic. Of course, you won't need to do that after a while because you're not going to be doing Appraise-It Classic anymore. So at that point, you can disengage this and you'll have the full suite of features of Appraise-It Pro available to you because it's not really going to be that important. But even if you did start a report and you need to take it back to Classic, you can still export it. It's just going to, well, I have to do this first. But you can still export it, but just remember there are going to be some things that aren't going to be compatible with Classic that might get stripped out of it. Now, this is also important if you are going to be sending this report to a portal that uses ACI Sky. This is not as big of a deal anymore, but ACI don't want to trash another company, a competitor, but ACI has evidently been having some personnel problems and some logistics and bandwidth problems for themselves. We came to them, told them, hey, we have a new version of Appraise-It we're putting out called Appraise-It Pro. We need you to make your Sky portal, because they do back-end portal stuff as well as just doing forms filling software. We need you to support Appraise-It Pro. And they said they didn't have the personnel to be able to do that. And one of the kind of boneheaded things that they did is they hard-coded everything. Okay, so if they get something sent to them that they're not expecting because it's hard-coded, the whole thing just blows up. So we told them, hey, look, we'll help you with this. Can we get this working? They just would not make Appraise-It Pro compatibility. So now this is all going to go away pretty soon because they have a new portal software that they're coming out with, and it is going to be compatible with Appraise-It Pro. But for right now, that's still floating around out there. So if you know that the portal you're sending it to uses the ACI Sky platform, or if you have any problems and they mention ACI as being the problem, what you'll want to do is engage Appraise-It compatibility mode when you first start the report, or engage it so that you can send the report. And you're going to do, instead of going Appraise-It Classic Export, you're going to come over here to Orders, and you're going to do, instead of Create Mismo, you're going to do ACI Sky Export. And that's going to strip out all the fancy stuff from the report. And then what it's going to do is going to use the Appraise-It Classic PDF printer, PDF export that is compatible with ACI Sky to take this report and put it out there for you. So I know that that's not ideal, but unfortunately this was not our doing. We're kind of having to work around ACI. That is pretty much it. Do you guys have any questions? If you have any questions, just let me know in the chat. If you think of your question after the fact, go ahead and email me. The email address you're going to want to use is going to be training@sfrep.com. Once again, if you do need immediate help, you're going to want to email tech@sfrep.com, or you're going to want to call them toll free, 800-644-4051. So I don't see any questions. So if you guys have any questions later on as you're rewatching this, or if you're watching this after the fact, use that email address, training@sfrep.com. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great rest of your week and a great rest of your day. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your time with me. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.